Ladies and gentlemen, the state of Gujarat owes Bilkis Bano an apology. Justice she has got from the Supreme Court today. But an apology has to come from Gujarat. An apology for the last 23 years. An apology for her gang rape when she was pregnant. An apology for her 3-year-old daughter's head being smashed to the wall. An apology for the murder of 14 family members. An apology for the police wanting to close the case because they couldn't find the rapists. An apology for 6 years of court appearances and media trials. An apology for the trauma of seeing her rapist walk free in 2022. I could go on and on. But today, the Gujarat government needs to apologize to Bilkis Bano for being complicit with her rapists when they had appealed for remission. When 11 of them had walked free on 15th August 2022, Bilkis Bano had said she felt violated again. A 6-year journey had led to their conviction in 2008. But it is in 2024 that Bilkis Bano has truly got justice. Again, it came from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court today overturned the Gujarat government's decision to grant early release to 11 of her rapists under its remission policy. It has ordered all 11 convicts to return to jail within 2 weeks. The 2-judge bench based its order on jurisdiction. It said that Gujarat had no business deciding on the remission because the trial took place in Mumbai. Supreme Court said, very strong words here, Gujarat had usurped the jurisdiction of Maharashtra. The Supreme Court also in effect then cancelled its own 2022 order, which had held that the state where the crime took place, which is Gujarat, has the jurisdiction to decide on the remission. The top court said the convicts had defrauded the Supreme Court and obtained the order in their favor in 2022 by concealing facts. We will talk about that in just a bit, and we'll talk about that in detail. Back to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has sent Bilkis's rapists, who've been out for 17 months now, back to jail. Pictures of them being garlanded and celebrated when they walked out had horrified every right-thinking citizen in this country. They had walked out of prison on August 2022 while serving over 14 years in jail. The jail advisory group had let them walk free because of their quote-unquote good behavior and because, quote-unquote, they were sanskari Brahmins. Today, the Gujarat government wasn't spared for that moment either. It was hauled over the coals by the Supreme Court that said that the Gujarat government was complicit and acted in tandem with the convict petitioners by misleading the top court in 2022. It said, and I quote, "We are surprised that the state of Gujarat did not file a review of the Supreme Court May 2022 order." Now, today there has been no reaction from Bilkis Bano. She has largely been out of the public eye, trying to put her past behind her. But such is her tragedy. It's always 2 steps ahead of her. There are some reactions that have come in, though, from politicians. Let's listen in.
জেলখানার রিপোর্ট অনুযায়ী যে তদন্ত যে কমিটি করা হয়েছিল তারা ছাড়া পাচ্ছে কেন না তারা সংস্কারী লোক মানে তারা পূজা পাঠ আর্চাগুলো করে তাই তাদেরকে
I welcome the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court had very clearly stated that the state of Gujarat acted in complicit with the convicts. And just before Gujarat Assembly elections, these convicts, the rapists were released. So that is why I demand that the central government headed by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and the BJP state government, Gujarat state government, should apologize to Bilkis Bano. And instead of the government standing with her, the government was unfortunately standing with these rapists and convicts. It exposes that the hollow claim of Narendra Modi's government of Nari Shakti, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao.
Let me go straight across to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who's a 3rd-time sitting member of Parliament. He's a jurist. He's also the national spokesperson of the Congress Party. Mr. Singhvi, thank you very much for your time. Do you believe the Gujarat government needs to now apologize to Bilkis Bano?
Look, Shreya, apology is the mildest word in my dictionary I can think of. There cannot be a milder word than this. But you can rest assured that forget Gujarat government, forget central government. I would say even the smallest officer of any of these governments will not apologize. We can keep on waxing eloquent, we can keep on lamenting, we can keep on breastfeeding. Nothing will happen because here we are now dealing with thick-skinnedness, with shamelessness. I mean, everything is not politics. Everything is not a political, grist to your political mill. राजनीतिक रोटी नहीं होती है हर चीज. There is something known as humanity, something known as manavta. But if you see everything through the prism of politics, अभी इलेक्शन आ रहा है, अभी इसको डाल दो, अभी इसको छोड़ दो, अभी ये करो, वो करो, then I think to be able to expect the apology is to live in cloud cuckoo land.
How do you view the Supreme Court's order today? They've had some very, very harsh words, not just for the petitioners, not just for the 11 convicts, but also for the Gujarat government, saying they worked in tandem with the convicts for them to get remission.
Shreya, you're absolutely right. I think, as George Orwell said, that in times of deceit, even to speak the truth is a revolutionary act. And today, I have said in my press conference that the Supreme Court has done a revolutionary judgment because it is simply stated facts. Now, just very quickly, I know your time is limited. By the way, we were the first party to call it out, and I happen to have taken the press conference on 20th of October 22 on this issue. And we raised several questions. We also raised the question that on 11th July 22, when you, the central government, were trying to look this way and that way and say, oh, we don't know, check with Gujarat, we don't have papers. 11th July 22 is your specific approval to the so-called remission, premature release. That is central government's. The buck doesn't stop anywhere else except the central government. And here you are the worst kind of hypocrisy and double standards. You are preaching ad nauseum. Everybody is to hear your sermons. You are a very powerful speaker. And this is the reality. You have not only the disgusting spectacle of certified office bearers of the BJP welcoming and garlanding these people, felicitating them. Of course, we've heard you mention twice the Brahma and the Sanskari demand. But you perhaps don't know, I appeared in this matter in the earlier stages. I was not appearing later on. There was a consistent effort to delay and obstruct the hearing of this case. This case for almost 3 to 4 months was disturbed, obstructed and delayed when an earlier bench comprising the now retired Justice Joseph and the lady judge who has now given judgment, Honorable Justice Nagaratna, were hearing it. So much so that in May, I remember, I was appearing in those times, the learned judge who was retiring said, it's very clear you want me to retire. As it turned out, the matter remained with the colleague judge, that is Honorable Justice Nagaratna, which bench has now delivered judgment. And not a single trick in the book was left out in delaying. And let me also say, I'm now using words of studied moderation and being very mild. We still have to wait and see. I don't want to give a prior judgment. But you can take it from me that the 2 weeks given to you to surrender and go back, every excuse and legal trick in the book is going to be used in the future to stay out, to nullify the judgment, to circumvent the judgment. Now, there has to be something which is not in the book. There has to be something known as spirit, morality, law, not the letter alone. If you have lost it all, merely because you proclaim that you are majority, therefore everything which you do will be right because you are majority, well, then that's the, end of all debate.
Mr. Singhvi, before I let you go, and since you're a senior lawyer as well, I want to ask you, today the Supreme Court made the entire verdict about jurisdiction. They said that the state of Gujarat simply didn't have the jurisdiction over remission of these 11 convicts. The state of Maharashtra did. Is this just about jurisdiction? This is much more than that. It was plain, simple wrong to let out men who had gang raped a pregnant woman, killed her 3-year-old daughter, and murdered 14 of her family members. Why did this, by the end of it, just become about jurisdiction? Kiska hai, Maharashtra ka ya Gujarat ka?
Well, you see, this is the problem when a whole host of people, governments included, central government and state government included, and the whole host of lawyers for the convicts or the accused, raised a whole host of objections to delay the matter. Now, it is not true that this is the only basis of the judgment. All the other contentions are also noted. There are important contentions, as you will see, about how the power, how the tests of remission were not applied. The papers showing how you applied the test of remission were not really, the test was not shown to have been applied, etc. But what happened was that the court found that the constant argument being raised, the root of it lay in the jurisdiction argument. So they felt that if they decided the root matter, they don't need to decide the other issues. But clearly, the root matter means that A, this matter is being dealt with by the government totally insensitively and fraudulently. But B, the judgment is not only about jurisdiction. You yourself just read the quotation. There are direct findings of malafides and complicitness. The word complicit is not mine, it's the Supreme Court's. In the state government, there are clearly words of fraud that the Supreme Court no less was defrauded. So these are strong words. And they, the court might not have felt it necessary to go into disputed areas where you'd start saying, no, this happened, that happened, this is the evidence, etc. They didn't need to, because they have found A, that there was lack of jurisdiction, B, that you circumvented the Supreme Court, you frauded the Supreme Court, and you did not tell the proper fact. The word suppressed is also used, by the way, by the Supreme Court. Suppressed, fraud, and complicit in one paragraph, 3 words. So I think, belated how it is, and obviously nothing can repair or restore what this lady has lost. But at least there is, as they say, the wheels of justice grind very, very slow, but they grind fine. So at least at some point of time, they have grounded fine.
Okay. Mr. Singh, we will leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us at the top of it. Appreciate your time here on Mirana. Thank you very much. Let me go across now to 2 ladies who were also in court fighting for Bilkis Bano. Indra Jaising is a senior lawyer with us on the broadcast. We have Vrinda Grover, again, an advocate in the case, joining us on the broadcast as well. Good evening to both of you, and thank you very much for your time. Indra Jaising, I'm starting to you. Can I ask you what you are feeling today as someone who's been closely part of the case? Is it anger? Is it joy? Is it hope?
I'm sorry, it's happiness, it's joy, it's hope. There's no question of any anger over here.
Indra ma'am, I said anger because it shouldn't have come to this point where a woman is gang raped, she sees her daughter being killed, she walks 6 years for justice, and then gets it only to see her rapist walk free once again. Looking at what happened in the last 17 months, all I feel is anger.
Justice being done. Just because we have a legal system, it doesn't mean that justice is going to be done by our, those who govern us, okay? And so obviously the phase of anger is over, ma'am. And without anger, there can be no justice. There has to be justified anger to reach your destination of justice. So that's why I said I'm happy, I'm joyous, I'm overjoyed.
Okay, do stay on with us. I'm getting Vrinda Grover into the conversation. Can I ask you, Vrinda, how you view the order that has come out? Many people are saying this is a landmark judgment. Do you consider it as one?
I think it's an extremely significant order, and there are multiple reasons why it is so significant. I think what the court has said today is that rule of law is the central pillar of our democracy, and the rule of law will be applied even-handedly, equally to all persons. And the state, if it leans and is either silent or actively omitting to do what it's supposed to do, then the courts will intervene and the courts will set aside such orders. In fact, it's been a scathing indictment of the state of Gujarat, where they have said that the state has been working in tandem with convicts. And let's remember, these are people convicted for 14 counts of murder, heinous gang rapes,
Correct.
including the rape of a pregnant woman and murder of infants and babies, a baby and a little child. So that is the nature of the convict. And here the state, one would imagine the job of the state is, and the role of the state is, to ensure that victims receive justice. And we see that the state has actually, as in the words of the Supreme Court, usurped power that did not belong to it, and then acted in tandem to enable an en masse release.
Indra Jai Singh, would you want to come in? Many people hailing this verdict as landmark. Would you agree?
Okay, I'm going to give you one or two judgments, I mean, as soon as I can. The first is that it's a judgment in which the Supreme Court has overruled one of its own judgments. Very rarely will that happen. The second thing is that they have reiterated the importance of the rule of law. And thirdly, to use a colloquial expression, they have put their money where their mouth is. It's not just, they're not just saying we are doing justice, but they're telling these people go back to prison. These are the reasons why it is. These are the headlines. The court has put its money where its mouth is.
Okay, but is today's Supreme Court judgment also an admission that the Supreme Court itself had erred when it asked the Gujarat government to consider the remission plea of Bilkis Bano's rapist in 2022?
Well, the court has put it this way. The court has said the petitioners have committed a fraud on the Supreme Court of India because they did not disclose to the court that there was a previous judgment of the High Court of Gujarat which said Maharashtra is the appropriate government. And secondly, even if they disclosed it, they misled the court by saying, just give me a minute, they misled the court by saying that there are two conflicting judgments of the two different high courts. That's why we are approaching the Supreme Court. But there were no two conflicting judgments. So the court has come down. I can tell you it's very rarely that the court says that a petitioner has committed a fraud on the court. And this is one of those rare judgments. I think it's a big lesson to petitioners, even to lawyers who draft petitions. It's not right to draft a petition without reading the entire record of the case.
But Indra Jai Singh, many viewers who are listening to you would want to know, shouldn't the Supreme Court have known better? How is it that convicts can lie through their teeth in the court and the Supreme Court falls for it? Let's not also forget it was the Supreme Court that had shifted the trial from Gujarat to Mumbai. How is it that they weren't clear on jurisdiction then way back in 2022?
Look, if you do read the judgment of the Supreme Court of Justice Rastogi and Justice Vikram Nath, you will find that there is no recitation of the... I remember Bilkis Bano was not made a party to the petition. Your question would be relevant if Bilkis Bano was made and represented by her own lawyer. Incidentally, I represented Mahua Moitra, as you know very well. And the issue of gang rape and communal violence is what was important to the entire women's movement, not just to me. But I would say that if you consider this a victory, it will be a victory of the united might of the women's movement.
Why, very quickly, before I let you go, why do you say that?
Because I am aware of the fact that in the year 2002, there was a pogrom, there was intense communal violence, and this gang rape, occurred as part of that communal violence. That's the first point. And second issue is, had it not been for the women who protected her throughout these years, you wouldn't see this judgment today. She got courage. She got her courage from the women's movement.
Okay. Indrajit, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to go to Vrinda Grover now. Vrinda, then, did it surprise you at all that today in court, today in the Supreme Court, everything became about jurisdiction? How is this just about jurisdiction? Whether Gujarat has the jurisdiction or Maharashtra has the jurisdiction, when it came to remission, the remission was plain wrong on multiple levels, including on the moral parameter.
So when we are before a court of law, what does court examine? The court sees if X authority, in this case the state of Gujarat, is passing an order. The first point, and that was a point of challenge in the different petitions, does the state of Gujarat have the power under law to pass this order? And since it failed that very test on two grounds, one, the Code of Criminal Procedure in Section 432, subsection 7 says, the appropriate government shall be the government where the offender has been tried and sentenced. We will recall that in this case, the investigation was handed over to the CBI and the trial was transferred to the Special Court, Mumbai, by the Supreme Court, because the court felt that there were peculiar facts and circumstances and compulsions of fair trial required the transfer outside the state of Gujarat. Now, therefore, both in accordance with law and a constitution bench judgment in the Sriharan matter, the appropriate government is the state of Maharashtra. Once the state of Gujarat has no power to pass an order, the case collapses on that ground itself. No state, no authority, no arm of the state can pass any order which they do not have the power under law to do. Therefore, the court did not have to examine further what was the nature, did not examine at length whether the discretion was exercised properly, whether this was a fit case for remission. Those were not issues that the court needed to examine. And the court, in fact, said that as far as exercise of discretion, and remission is a power of discretion, and there is nothing wrong with the power of remission. Remission power must be available to the state always. But they said in this case, the state of Gujarat has usurped a power that it did not have.
Ms. Grover, my last question to you is about Bilkis herself. Her family, of course, has had to leave the village before the judgment came in. For the last 15, 20 days, at least, we don't know where Bilkis Bano is. There's good reason why she would not want to be anywhere near a camera or near the press right now. But I want to ask you, what happened with her in 2002? We all know what happened. We are in 2024. Does it break your heart to see that things got to this point where a woman who was gang raped, walks 6 years for justice, sees her rapist go to jail, then she sees them walk out, then has to approach the court, finally for the Supreme Court to say that the Gujarat government was complicit in their remission, etc. Does that tell you something about India's justice system as well?
Well, actually, it makes me very angry. And it makes me angry at our society, definitely at our polity, which all we have reduced violations of women to is a lot of shouting and screaming and sloganeering and whatever. But when it comes to women who stand up, and my salutations to Bilkis Bano, her family and the activists who have supported her, without which she may not have been able to walk this very difficult journey. This should not happen to her or to many others when we are watching these battles unfold as we speak. So when we talk about women and we talk about how in this country, in this society, we respect women, let the state walk the talk. And as a citizen of this country, as a woman citizen of this country, this is our right. And Bilkis, we all owe Bilkis an apology, and definitely the state which refuses to stand by her even today.
Vrinda Grover, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. I'm going to put that question to Desh Ratna Nigam, who's a lawyer joining us on the broadcast. Sanjay Jha is an author joining us on the broadcast as well. Desh Ratna Nigam, according to you, is Vrinda Grover right? Does the state of Gujarat owe Bilkis Bano an apology for everything?
Keep on law and keep the emotions out of it. And emotions mean being two ghastly incidents that took place. One, burning of car savers, 59 car savers, one alive. And second, the rape and the murder which took place, for which people have been convicted. Now, let us come to the judgment. And the judgment, the Gujarat government did not usurp any jurisdiction. It was on the direction of the Supreme Court they decided this remission. So usurpation is a wrong word used by the Supreme Court present judgment that we have. Secondly, when there is a previous judgment of a coordinate bench with two judges, and a subsequent judgment is also a coordinate bench of two judges, and if you differ with the previous judgment, you refer it to a larger bench. You do not say that the state government should have filed a review petition. If the state government is satisfied with the Supreme Court previous judgment, why should it file a review petition? You don't dictate terms to the parties before you. The Supreme Court's job is not to do that. It is the discretion and prerogative of the state government.
No, Mr. Desh Ratna Nigam. Mr. Desh Ratna Nigam, if technically, on technical grounds, the Supreme Court is wrong because now it says it was misled in 2022 by the petitioner, the Gujarat government is seeing that wrong judgment, is seeing the misleading that is happening. And yet the Gujarat government is keeping quiet. The Supreme Court has said today it's very surprising that the Gujarat government didn't come to us, didn't appeal the judgment of 2022 when it was blatantly wrong.
Let me tell you one thing. The Supreme Court cannot say that the previous judgment was wrong. That is what I am saying. If there are two different judgments on the same issue, and the present court had a different opinion, the law says that it should be referred to a larger bench. We don't call coordinate benches, do not call each other's judgments wrong. Please understand that, otherwise there will be chaos in Supreme Court. One judge will say something else, another bench will say something else. That chaos has to be avoided.
Mr. Desh Ratna Nigam, today the Supreme Court has squashed the 2022 judgment. I don't want to confuse our viewers, but today the Supreme Court, with its order today, has squashed the 20.
No.
Of course they have quashed it. Of course they have quashed the 2022 judgment. They have said it.
They cannot quash.
It stands null and void.
No, they cannot. In law, they cannot. Coordinate benches cannot quash each other's judgment. That is the law. This is the one loophole which I'm pointing out. It has to be referred to a larger bench, 3 judges bench minimum.
We'll see. If it's referred to a larger bench. But the question that I asked you was, should the Gujarat government apologize to Bilkis Bano for what they have done to her?
Answer that. Let me
उसका
answer.
जवाब आपने दिया नहीं.
नहीं, मैं दे रहा हूँ. I first pointed the law. The fact is, state government performed a function. A tribunal is constituted where there are 8 members. And 4 of them are BJP and rest of them are the Director General of Police, Superintendent of Jail, and the District Magistrate, and one more. So that they have performed their function. Tribunals perform their function. No, let it be. They are performing a quasi-judicial function. It could be a wrong decision or a right decision. There is no need of apology. Otherwise, all the tribunals in India will be continuously apologizing because their order was set aside by Supreme Court. This is now how law functions. Please understand that.
Okay. Sanjay Jha, would you want to come in here? अगर apology हो तो आधे से ज़्यादा tribunals will keep apologizing. What is there to apologize? गलत decision था, हो गया, is what Mr. Nigam is saying.
You know, Shreya, I need to be very blunt here today. It is tragic that despite the humiliation, the insult, and the attempt and the conspiracy to deny her justice, you have a gentleman here, Mr. Nigam, who otherwise seems to be moderate, but he's obviously an RSS man. He's a sympathizer of the right wing. is trying to justify that. You asked him a simple question. Does the Gujarat government owe an apology to Bilkis Bano? Absolutely. I believe, and I want to say this, Shreya, that all of us as Indians need to hang our head in shame for what we have done to Bilkis Bano since 2002. I mean, does Mr. Nigam know? He's an eminent lawyer. I know it too. I don't have to be a lawyer to tell him that the case had to be moved, Mr. Nigam, from Gujarat to Maharashtra because there was fear of justice happening in Gujarat. And we know who was the Gujarat chief minister at that point of time. And for God's sake, you're talking about a 21-year-old woman who was gang raped when she was 5 months pregnant and whose child got murdered right in front of her eyes. What are we talking about here? Do politicians or spokespersons have to have some humanity or not? Or are we supposed to be just plastic faces uttering platitudes to defend the ideology that we believe in? And let me call it out here. I have read what the Supreme Court has said. Mr. Nigam is indulging in extremely, nonsensical gobbledygook. The truth is, it has used two terms that will stay with India forever. A fraud has been perpetrated by the Gujarat government, suppression of material facts, and these are significant terms being used by the Supreme Court, misleading the Supreme Court. I mean, how can anybody at this point of time even try and attempt to pretend that this is okay, this is just another benign case? And by the way, Shreya, important to point out, why just the Gujarat government? The Union Home Ministry approved the remission. On the 15th of August, celebrating the 75th year of Indian independence, her rapists were released. I think this is a telling manifestation of what I call as the moral degeneration of a great country. Tragic.
Mr. Nigam, you are entitled to your opinion. I have 20 seconds. We all say empower women, right? All states say empower women. But here's a woman who was raped. She's not raped, she's actually gang raped.
Yep.
Her daughter is murdered, 3-year-old daughter is murdered in front of her own eyes. 14 of her family members are killed. Then the Gujarat police goes to court and says, Mamla close kar do. We can't, she's been raped, she's been gang raped, but we can't seem to find her rapists.
Yep.
So that is what she's going through. Finally, she walks 8 years to justice to get the judgment that she does. Then, just a minute, then, in 2022, she has to relive the horror because she's seeing 11 of her rapists walk out, being garlanded, being celebrated and called Sanskari Brahmins. And then for 2 years again, she has to be in court. And the Supreme Court today is saying that the 2022 judgment was a fraud, was obtained by fraud, and the Gujarat government was complicit. And yet you are telling me, kya zarurat hai apology ki Gujarat government ko? They have not done anything wrong. Look at what they have done. Every time a woman who has been wronged has stood up seeking justice, you've tried to suppress her.
Allow me to answer
you have not worked with her, you have worked against her.
Let me answer your questions, all your doubts. Even the Supreme Court refrained from commenting on merits, and we are all commenting on merits. They did not touch the merits of the case. Please understand that. Wow. Nothing on merits the Supreme Court has said so. Yes, because they have kept it. Because they didn't need to. Because they kept it to jurisdiction. But this is beyond jurisdiction. Allow me to finish.
The wrong here is beyond jurisdiction, Mr. Ratan. You know this.
I know. I am presuming this judgment is correct and nobody challenges it. Please remember, they have kept it open for the convict to apply for remission in Maharashtra government. Therefore, they have not commented on merits. Please understand that. This is for your viewers. I am not commenting on merits because the Supreme Court has refrained from commenting on merits. They have said so the state government did not have jurisdiction. Therefore, they are setting it aside. That is the only thing that they have said.
Okay.
The operative part of the judgment is this only.
Mr. Nigam,
let us not go beyond that. We cannot read the merits into a judgment which is in terms of law only.
But this was beyond the law. This is not just about the law. This is about right and wrong as well, Mr. Nigam.
We are discussing the judgment of the Supreme Court.
और जो हुआ वो गलत हुआ. Yes, we are
गलत हुआ,
discussing
सब
a judgment of a
आपकी-
Supreme Court, but this wasn't just about jurisdiction. This was beyond just jurisdiction. There was a moral question to it as well. And yes, the Supreme Court has not spoken about that because they didn't need to. But you're making an important point, and therefore, viewers, the question. If the 11 convicts, they've been sent back to jail, but if 11 convicts go back to Maharashtra seeking remission, and if the Maharashtra government grants them that remission, will this Supreme Court order hold? That is a question that will also need to be answered. It has not been answered today, but that is a question that Mr. Nigam is raising, and that is a question that will need to be answered as well. For the moment, thank you very much, Sanjay Jha, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Nigam, for joining us as well. On that note, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. Up next, why are Indians saying vocal for local? And this is in context to Maldives and Lakshadweep. That story is coming up next. Do stay with us.